I'm Mihika Rajesh.
And I'm Mamta Rajesh.
And I'm a psychotherapist.
I'm a psychotherapist and a breathwork therapist. And we are the founders of Utsmaya.
Mamta, so a lot of people use the word trauma loosely, or a lot of people hear the word trauma and they want to run as far away as they can because it's very scary. And I think there's a certain minority of people who do not truly understand what trauma is and have their own understanding of it. So, as therapists, and of course, with your years of experience working in this field and seeing trauma of different kinds, just help us understand what trauma is.
It's such an interesting question. So, trauma, the word comes from the Greek origin, trauma, which basically means wound.
Right.
So, what we are referring to is a psychological wound. Even in medical terms, when there's somebody who's had an accident or the body has gone into shock, it's referred to as trauma.
Yeah.
So, in therapy and psychology, it's a psychological wound. So, it is basically when something happens, we can call it a bad experience, and there is an internal response. And that internal response becomes like a wound which stays. And anytime there is a trigger from the outside which pokes that wound, it is trauma getting triggered. If I have to give you an easy example to relate to, say you get bitten by a dog, and you have the dog wound, the dog bite, and then the injections and all of that, and you make it through, and you're fine.
Yeah.
And months later, you're on the road walking, and you hear two dogs barking, growling at each other. Your body will have a response. Your heart will start beating faster. Your breath picks up. You break into a sweat, and basically your body is calling you to become alert. That is trauma. You see, the dog bite was a one-off incident. It's happened. It's over. It's in the past. But every time you hear a dog barking loudly, your body remembers what it felt like when the dog had bitten you, what it felt like to be injected with anti-rabies, etc. And your body has kept that memory for a reason also, so that you don't forget all of that. But that wound which is left over in the body, that is the real trauma.
So it's not so much the incident directly, but what I experienced of that incident, which is
exactly
what I carry forward.
Exactly. So it's not so much the incident, it's what the incident did to me,
right,
which is the real trauma.
And I've heard a lot of people talk about the two types of traumas. Basically, if you could just put them into segments, which is the big trauma and the small trauma.
Yeah.
Could you help us understand that a little better?
So basically, if we have to divide trauma into big T and small t, as it's referred to generally, the small t can be identified as all of the good things that were supposed to happen in a person's life, but missed out. It didn't happen. It was missing in their life. For example, for a child to grow up feeling safe, feeling protected, feeling validated, feeling loved, cared for, all of these are what are things that a child needs. These are the good things that is needed to be experienced by every child. So when these get missed out, these become small t, small trauma.
Correct.
Not getting these become the small trauma. The big trauma is the actual big incidents in life, the painful incidents in life, which should not happen, but which happened. It can be a big accident, it can be death, it can be lost, a house collapsing in rains, it can be an accident, a loss of a limb. These big ones, which are really painful and bad, when they happen, these are the big trauma. Now, both have an impact on the person. And quite often, this impact is lifelong. But the good news is there are ways a person can become aware of the trauma and then work consciously towards releasing the trauma which is stored in the body.
Hold on. So you said when you were giving the example of the dog that the person's got bitten and sometime months later they're walking on the streets, they've heard dogs bark and their body responded.
Yeah.
And you just now mentioned that you can release it from the body.
Yeah.
So clearly it means trauma is in the body and it's not just a cognitive thought
Absolutely.
or fear or anxiety, which is all in your head. So how does it, I mean, why is it in the body and how does it get into the body? How does the body hold on to it?
So the first time when the experience happened, trauma occurred, if as a person I did not feel safe enough to express it then and there, maybe I thought I would be judged if I shared my feeling, or maybe I didn't feel safe, or maybe I thought I'll be punished if I speak about it. Whatever the reason, if I choose or decided it's better for me not to express, I chose to keep quiet about it. Now, here's the thing. I might tell myself, oh, it's okay, I understand, I've moved on, I've forgotten. While we think the mind processes it, the body doesn't. And what then happens is it is stuck in the body, the emotion, the expression is stuck in the body. And how do you know that it's stuck in the body? The easiest way for you to ask yourself, do I have stuck emotions in the body, is ask yourself if at any point of time when there has been a trigger, something triggered you, maybe it was sadness, maybe it was anger, any emotion, when you got triggered, if your response was more than the trigger, if the intensity of the response was more than the intensity of the trigger, or disproportionately more, then that's your cue that the disproportionate amount of the emotion is not coming from the current trigger. That's coming from your past stored trauma. And it was waiting for release. And when there was a trigger today, it came out with it. So that's the easiest way for us to identify, that's old stored emotion from my body coming out.
And I'm curious also, you do breath work you offer breath work as a modality, right? So from that lens of breath work, how does, the same question, like how does trauma get into the body? Say I did get bitten by that dog in that moment. So if you just go on with that question, how would that, through the lens of breath work?
So what happens is when there's something that is an overwhelming emotion, I might be scared, I might be sad, I might be angry, and in that moment I'm not able to express, again, for whatever reasons, it's not safe, I'll be judged, I'll be punished. Without us realizing, in that moment our breathing changes, and the moment my breathing pattern changes, I might hold my breath without realizing. My breath might become shallow, my breath might become rapid. The moment my breathing changes, my emotions are getting trapped in the body. And most often, when we are not connected enough with our body, we don't pick up that my breathing changed. My breathing became shallow, or I held my breath. So there are many times I've seen clients, and I myself had this long phase in my life when my breathing was kind of disturbed, and I would end up, every few minutes, I would end up taking one deep breath in, and it was like,
Yes.
and I wasn't doing breath work back then, and I didn't realize that was stored trauma in the body. And it's like breath catches up and then you're dumping out because you're holding your breath without even realizing that you're holding your breath. So that's another sign of stored trauma in the body.
and why the correlation I can make to this is a lot of them say that dogs usually release when they shake the body, the dogs are shaking the stress off and they're just like, whatever happens, scared them, they shake it and then go moving on. So that's the relation that came to my mind of, when it happens in the body. So one way of saying that maybe as humans, for multiple reasons, we're not able to shake it off in that moment and come back to our normal breathing or just come back to a regulated sense.
Yeah.
So why does it then continue to stay trapped in the body?
Because we haven't found safe expression.
Can you explain that? Safe expression?
So first of all, a lot of it is subconscious. So I'm not aware that I'm holding it in my body. And people do believe, and they genuinely believe that, hey, it's in the past. I've gotten over it. I've moved on. They have moved on. It's not that it's a lie, but the body which was storing the emotion has not fully released it yet.
Got it.
Okay. So, and that's one thing, partly subconscious. So there's no awareness. What also adds to it is, I think a lot of us are not intuitively connected enough to our body to pick up signs in the body. So we might be having stiff neck, stiff shoulders, tight shoulders, and I don't realize that it's an emotion. I might be frequently having low back pain, and I don't realize that's an emotion. I might be sitting with a lot of sadness in the chest, and I don't realize that it's old sadness. In fact, if you see, there are times we've seen where people are grieving the loss and they're sad and they're not able to bear the sadness. They sometimes beat their chest and they cry. Beating the chest releases the trapped emotions from the chest. It loosens the sadness stuck in the chest. Now that is a very intuitive body connection. They are intuitively beating their chest to release the sadness. And it releases the sadness. Otherwise, it's too much. So it's a lot. It's partly we are not aware. We are also so disconnected. Numbness and disconnection is also a coping strategy, right?
Yeah.
So there has to be a readiness to deal with it.
And I guess a lot of us, for multiple reasons, again, societal, gender, norms,
conditioning,
just do not know how to do that. And so then how do these show up in the body as trauma trapped in the body? What are the signs or symptoms or things that it does to a person's body when they have, like you mentioned, something as stiff shoulders or,
the bodily aches and pains, most common, low energy, feeling drained. You might go out, come back home and feel exhausted, and you wonder, I'm doing a desk job. My job involves, I'm indoors in an AC office. Why am I getting so drained and tired? So that's a sign. Sleep disturbances, difficulty falling asleep or difficulty staying asleep. The person falls asleep fairly easily, but then it's disturbed, keep waking up. Then there could be procrastination. We spoke about it earlier too in another video. So sense of procrastination, because it's the thought of doing anything is like, just too much. I can't do it. Frequent falling ill, because the sickness ensures the body gets rest.
Wow.
So when it gets too much and the person falls sick, the nervous system, the subconscious mind says, okay, just shut up, fall sick, you can get a break. So for frequent falling sick, low immunity, autoimmune disorders might have a stress factor playing out. Relationship struggles, poor trust levels, difficulty to surrender to life. Surrender doesn't mean you'd say, whatever happens, I'll be with it. But
Trust the process.
but to trust the flow of life, to trust myself, to trust life, to trust the other person. Not There's so much overthinking that happens. Overthinking is a coping mechanism to deal with a dysregulated nervous system. So overthinking is not part of their personality; it's their coping mechanism. And second guessing myself, doubting, that's trauma, coming from trauma. And here's a favorite one. And this is a friend all of us have. Some of us have multiple friends, some of us have few. That loud inner critical voice.
Oh God. Yeah.
So that's also coming from trauma, and further trauma can feed it and make it into this big voice, or releasing the trauma can take away the volume and do that. So these are some of the most commonly seen ways. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. This seems like a topic that you can keep peeling layers off and keep having a conversation, and you will keep discovering things about it. But I guess we'll come back with more videos on this topic. Well, thank you so much for answering this question.